Can you survive a perforated abdomen? Is there any way to foresee your opponent's moves in a fight? And is there any way of culturing human cells to develop parts of the body? Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to be taking another look at the Record of Ragnarok series, and I'll be breaking down the fight between Buddha and Zerofuku. And if you're keen to see more Record of Ragnarok videos, I'll leave a link down below. Otherwise, for those people that haven't seen the latest episodes, spoiler warning ahead, and if you're ready, let's begin.
ゼロ服が天界から降臨して目にしたものは胸が痛いよ。オラが君の服を代わりに背負ってあげる。
So to start off with, we see the origin of Zerofuku, and we can see that he originally started as quite a kind and benevolent god, curing the illnesses of the local town people. And I'm guessing that the illness this young boy is suffering from is a bacterial infection of the lung, such as pneumonia, as we can see that he's sweating and complaining that his chest hurts. Also, pneumonia is pretty common in the homeless community, as well as those who are malnourished.
Okay.
So, despite Zerofuku taking on the townspeople's pain, they don't appreciate his efforts. This has left Zerofuku feeling underappreciated and undervalued, which ultimately turns him against humanity, leading him to go onto the side of the gods. So the reason he's unable to breathe here is because he's taken a direct blow to the solar plexus. Now this can lead the diaphragm to go into spasm, leading to involuntary contract, ultimately disrupting your breathing and causing you to become winded. It's also important to note that taking a direct blow to the solar plexus is extremely painful, so much so that it can disrupt other functions like being able to stand on your feet. So what an overpowered weapon. It looks like the more misfortunate Zerofuku is, the more powerful his weapon becomes. Meaning that for every attack that Buddha ends up dodging, the higher the impact any potential direct hit will have. He just needs to make sure that he continues dodging all those blows.
釈迦様はゼロ服の攻撃をすでに知っているのです。いわば未来種です。そう、あれこそは Okay,
so it looks like Buddha has a similar power to Adam from season 1, as we see his eyes glow up. And I seem to remember that Adam's power was the ability to copy any one of his opponent's moves. Seemingly though, Buddha's power takes this one step further in being able to see the future by predicting his opponent's attacks. And it's interesting because to some extent, this ability of being able to foresee your opponent's next move is utilized in some competitive sports. And therefore, to some degree, it's actually a real thing. Oh, okay, so there he takes a blow to the larynx, the area where your voice box sits. And certainly taking a blow here could cause you to spew up blood from direct trauma to the larynx. But it could also cause a fracture to your larynx and damage the underlying voice box, meaning that you could lose your voice. Oh god, another blow to the area that we call the suprasternal notch. Now, the significance of this area is that it acts as a vulnerable point where your trachea, or otherwise known as your windpipe, is the most superficial point to the skin. Meaning, taking a direct blow to this area could cause your windpipe to become swollen, making it difficult to breathe, and effectively incapacitating your opponent. God, so looking at Zerofuku's weapon now, it's absolutely huge. You can really tell the misfortune that he's had in this fight. Whereas if you look at Buddha, he doesn't have a scratch on him. It looks like this is a really one-sided fight.
突っ込めってことね。
Oh, okay, so a further blow to the abdomen, but this time it looks like it's blunt force trauma. Now, I wouldn't underestimate an injury like this just because it's a blunt weapon. I've seen people come through the accident and emergency department with blunt force trauma that's caused a ruptured spleen and severe internal bleeding. So just remember that the weapon doesn't always need to be sharp or penetrative for it to be lethal.
ただ民の幸福を考え生きてきた。兄様、もう戻りましょう。私の人生は一体誰のものだったんだろうね。
So here we're hearing about Buddha's backstory, and we're seeing how one of his brothers, who was the king, died of a mysterious illness. Now, thinking about what this disease might be, it causes you to cough up blood, and it looks like the king has had it for some time. And this makes me wonder whether it's something like tuberculosis, which is a really common bacterial infection, particularly in the Far East, and it has a very high mortality rate, with people dying from it at a very young age.
陸道根一の道、天道、如意輪観音。
Oh, so a slash across the chest wall. Now this certainly doesn't look deep enough to have breached into the mediastinum where you find the heart, and it doesn't look like it's penetrated through the ribs either, so I think the lungs are okay. But it certainly looks deep enough to have torn through the pectoral muscles. And just remember how essential your pectoral muscles are. They help to raise your arm forwards and also bring your arms across your chest. So in damaging these muscles, it would make it far harder to wield a heavy weapon that needs to be swung across the chest.
俺はゼロ福ちゃんのこと結構好きだよ。
好き。自分を愛せ。適当なこと言ってんじゃねえ。この。
I don't know what it is about the Buddha character, but he certainly is very likeable. In fact, I think they've made his character really chilled with the flip-flops and lollipops, whilst also maintaining his peaceful persona that we'd probably all characterize him as having. Which historical character would you like to see featured in the Ragnarok fights?
この時初めてゼロ服は救われたのだ。
あれこそがゼロ服本来の姿です。
So, Buddha was able to show Zerofuku the error in his ways by a direct blow to the face and a TKO, with this ultimately reverting him back to his previous peaceful self. Now, as a doctor, I can't say that there's any evidence that this is a therapeutic option to bringing people round to your point of view. So please, don't try this at home.
僕を好きになれるように。
So, just when you're about to call the fight, we get a transformation of Zerofuku into this Devil King. And with having seen other episodes of this series already, you could kind of tell that this was coming. And that's one of the things I like about the Record of Ragnarok series. You never really know who's going to end up winning the bout. In some cases, it might be the fan favourite, and in others, it might be the underdog. Oh gosh, so that move has taken out Buddha's eye, which is definitely going to limit his field of vision during this fight. Now, surprisingly, perforating your eyeball doesn't mean that you're going to be permanently blind on that side. So long as the eye is still intact and found within the eye socket, it can actually be repaired by being stitched back together, and then it will reinflate, a bit like a balloon.
左目完全に終わったっぽいね。左が攻められっぱなし。ああ、ダッサ。
Okay, gosh, so there's Buddha going for the killer blow, trying to take out the Devil King's trachea, otherwise known as the windpipe, as well as the carotid arteries, which are the main blood vessels that supply the brain. It's actually surprising how vulnerable the neck actually is, especially when you have a look at a cross-section through the anatomy. You can really see how superficial all the vital structures are.
何者かが消滅した破順のわずかな残影を入手。何らかの方法で培養種子のようなものを作り
Okay, so in this scene we're seeing how the Devil King got into Zerofuku's body, and it looks like we stumbled across a bit of a scientist on the way. But are these methods of cultivating cells a real science? Well, yes they are, and there are several ways to replicate human cells, and probably the process that we're seeing here is something called tissue culture. And during this process, cells from the tissue in question are isolated and exposed to both nutrients and growth factors. This is to help them proliferate into the tissue that you actually want. And believe it or not, but this process can actually be utilised to help regrow skin, tendons and cartilage, and other organ-specific tissues.
そしてその破順の種ゼロ服に植えた
I can already tell that I'm going to like this character if he gets a chance to fight in the Ragnarok battles. As we've seen in many other anime shows, that any contender who ends up using science always has a bag of tricks up their sleeve. Oh god, so he's now been stabbed through the foot. And this would be such a painful injury because you have so many nerve endings that end in your feet. And also it looks like this blade could have gone through the bone as well. We also have to remember that our feet are essential when generating force with our upper bodies. And so although it might look like a minor injury, it can be enough to take an opponent out of a fight. Oh god, so we can see that Buddha takes a further penetrative injury to his abdomen, and we can see that it's gone through his left lower side. And in this area you've got the large intestine, and if this perforates, it allows for both fecal matter and bacteria to enter the abdomen, and it can cause a severe infection called peritonitis and even sepsis. The way this needs to be treated is the person needs to be taken to surgery and have a complete washout of the abdomen and then placed on IV antibiotics to help treat any lingering infection. So it looks like Buddha's tried to manipulate the feelings of the Devil King, who's now quite intimidated and afraid of Buddha, as he doesn't seem to be backing down, despite the fact that it looks like he's losing this fight. And many professional fighters have argued this point, that a fight is as much a mental battle as it is a physical one. So you've definitely got to hand it to him, amputating your own arm during a battle to use it as a weapon. Only in Record of Ragnarok would you see a character do something like this. Gosh, a further slash to the chest, and Buddha says it wasn't deep enough due to the loss of his depth perception with losing that eye. But what is required for you to have depth perception? So you definitely need both eyes, as each receives a slightly different image of the world. The brain then integrates these two slightly different views in a process called binocular disparity, and it's this that creates your depth perception.
魂の揺らぎを見ることで未来を知る。しかし今、ハジュンの魂はその闇に覆えぬほど揺らぎ始めている。
So by manipulating the Devil King's emotions in making him feel fear, Buddha is now able to visualize his soul. And what this allows him is to regain his foresight ability in anticipating how the Devil King's going to attack him.
見えるか、ゼロ服ちゃん。
Oh god, so Buddha has completely dismembered his opponent, meaning that this bout of the Ragnarok battle goes to humanity. So if I'm right in remembering, it's now a draw with 3 wins aside. I can't wait to see more of the upcoming fights. I can only hope that the future battles are a little bit more grounded rather than using fantastical weapons like in this fight. Let me know which fight you're looking forward to down below. Otherwise, if you're free just now and you want to see more, why not check out one of these 2 videos? Otherwise, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.